AITA for telling everyone about my wife and cousin after I caught them in my living room. My cousin Ryan, who is 29 years old now, was about the same age as me, 28. He was also an only child, and we became inseparable right away. We spent most of our time together. I even started heading straight to his house after school every day. Both sets of parents approved of the setup. His mom stayed at home and did not have a job, so my parents were relieved to know there was someone looking after me while they were at work. And his mom was glad that her son was not spending his days by himself. Things stayed the same as we grew older. We have been best friends ever since, even though it sounds odd to say it that way. I have always thought of him as a brother. I am not exaggerating. I truly consider him my blood brother. We attended different universities, but we stayed in contact. We played video games online together and met up whenever we were both back in our hometown. He was even my best man at my wedding. That is one of the reasons why this whole situation has been so difficult to accept. I met 27-year-old Rachel 4 years ago. I was not searching for a relationship at that time. My previous dating experiences had not lasted long, usually because the other person was not interested in anything serious. With Rachel, it felt different. It was easy to talk with her, and I felt comfortable around her right away. She seemed much more mature than the women I had dated before, and she stayed by my side even when I was struggling financially and working hard to build my career. Ryan was one of the first people I introduced her to. They started joking around with each other as if they had been friends for years. These were two of the most important people in my life, and seeing them connect so well made me feel wonderful. It felt like I was creating my own family. Rachel and I got married 2 years after we first met. Ryan stood as my best man and gave a speech about how we had been like brothers since childhood and how happy he was that I had found someone who made me a better person. Rachel squeezed my hand, and tears actually came to her eyes. Ryan still came over a lot after we got married. It is not like he was always there. He had a job and a life of his own and understood that we needed some alone time too, but he still made the effort to stop by a couple of days a week. Most of the time, he just came over to hang out, and on other days we all went out together. Rachel and Ryan got along so naturally that I really felt I was quite lucky. I had heard stories about spouses who could not stand their brothers-in-law, and I was grateful that was not the case with us. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs, but I trusted them too much. I loved Rachel, and Ryan was family. I could not have imagined that anything would be going on between them. About a year into our marriage, things started to change in ways I could not ignore. Rachel became protective of her phone. She would tilt it away from me when she was texting or flip it over when she put it on the table or the couch. When I asked her who she was talking to, she would say it was work or one of her friends. And then Ryan started showing up more often when I was not home. Normally, I would not have questioned that. He is family and does not live that far away. It was not unusual for him to drop by to say hi or grab something from our fridge while he was running errands. But two things about it seemed off to me. The first thing I noticed was that he started coming over more often when I was not home. The second thing was that neither of them mentioned his visits to me. I only found out because I started noticing small details. One afternoon I got home from my office job and noticed an extra coffee mug in the sink. Rachel never drank more than 1 cup because it upset her stomach. I did not want to seem paranoid, but I could not get it out of my head. When I asked Rachel about it, she said it was probably mine. I reminded her that I had not had coffee that morning because I had to get to work early. I had to drink the weak coffee they provided in the break room at the office. She made a big show of suddenly remembering that Ryan had come over in the morning. She said he came to drop something off and just stayed for a cup of coffee. Normally I would have believed that, but I could not ignore the fact that she lied first. I was sure she had not forgotten that Ryan came over. I tried to chalk it up to paranoia, but I kept looking for more signs. The next thing I noticed were fast food wrappers in the trash. They came from places I knew I had not ordered from. When I asked Rachel about it, she said she picked them up while she was running errands. I knew that was not true. She really did not like fast food. She preferred to cook when she got home. Ryan, on the other hand, lived on takeout. That was when I started to realize that things were not adding up. The more I looked, the more I noticed. Sometimes things were not exactly where I left them. Once, I even caught a whiff of Ryan's cologne in the air. I was sure he was coming over more often, and Rachel was lying about it for some reason. Even with the signs piling up, I kept telling myself there was some reasonable explanation. That is probably why I am so embarrassed about all this. I feel stupid. I should have figured it out sooner, but I could not let myself believe they had something going on. It was unthinkable. I still had a hard time believing it when I actually caught them together. I told Rachel I was going to the office, even though I had taken the day off. I even drove my car a few blocks away, parked it, and walked back home. I was not planning on catching them in the act. I just wanted to see if he really came over so I could figure out what he was actually doing when he visited. I felt ridiculous walking back. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. But when I got close to the house, I could already see Ryan's car parked a few houses down. He probably thought it would be less suspicious if he did not park right outside, but I would recognize his car anywhere. I unlocked the door and went into the house as quietly as I could. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. They were both on the living room couch. Ryan was lying on his back, and Rachel was lying on top of him. They had not gone any further yet, but they were partially undressed and kissing each other very passionately. I immediately felt sick. I froze in the doorway, feeling like I was going to throw up. They did not notice me for a few seconds. They were too wrapped up in each other to realize someone else was in the room. Then, Rachel opened her eyes and saw me standing there. Rachel bolted upright and immediately pulled her shirt over her head to cover herself. Ryan looked confused for a second. Then he turned to look at me and started scrambling to pull up his pants. No one said anything at first. They were waiting for my reaction, and I was still trying to process what I saw. I had known something was wrong for a while, but I did not expect anything like this. Ryan spoke first. "Bro, it is not what it looks like." It was a stupid thing to say, but I do not think anything better came to his mind. It looked like he was kissing my wife, getting ready to be with her right there in my living room. They were still trying to untangle their bodies from each other. Of course, it was what it looked like. His response broke something in me. I had been played for a fool for so long, and now it felt like he was taking me for a complete idiot. I am normally a calm and rational person, but this had pushed me too far. Before I realized what I was doing, I stepped forward and shoved him hard in the chest. He stumbled backward against the couch, still half dressed. My voice was shaking with rage. I told him to get out of my house before I did something I would regret. I did not mean it literally, but I was ready to fight him. On an average day, it probably would have been an even fight, but I was angrier than I had ever been. I probably would have hurt him badly. Ryan tried to calm me down, raised his hand, and said, "Listen, bro." I struck him before he could say anything else. I threw 2 or 3 punches. He was not expecting them, and I knocked him to the floor. It felt satisfying in that moment of anger, and I was tempted to keep going. Rachel threw herself between us and yelled at me to stop. It took all my self-control to keep from reacting toward her. I was mad at her too, but I had enough common sense not to make a bad situation worse. I ignored her and just focused on Ryan. He had crawled away and was buckling his belt and bunching his other clothes under his arm. He was getting ready to run. I screamed at him to get out of my house. He headed for the door, but turned around one last time and said, "Let us talk about this, bro." I made a move toward him, but Rachel grabbed my arm, and Ryan took the opportunity to escape partially dressed with his clothes in his arm. I yanked my arm out of her grip and stepped away from her. I asked her how long this had been going on. She said the same thing Ryan did, that it was not what it looks like. I asked her what I was supposed to think after seeing her on top of him. She tried to get closer to me, but I put my arm out and told her to stay away. She started with the typical excuses. It did not mean anything. It just happened. They were about to stop. I asked her again how long it had been going on. She said it had been going on for a few months. I was not sure I believed her, but I knew I was not going to get the truth out of her. For all I knew, they had been together right under my nose for years. It did not really matter anyway. We were done. I told her to pack her things and get out of the house. She realized this was not something we were going to be able to work through and started to panic. She tried to bargain with me to change my mind, but I did not cave. I am not going to leave out the fact that I said a lot of harsh things to her. I was angry and hurt. I do not regret a single thing I said. She had crossed a line, though. I do not know who started things between the two of them, and I am sure I will never find out. It makes no difference anyway. They are both responsible. By the time I was done venting and saying everything on my mind, she was in tears on the living room couch. I left her there as I stormed out of the house to clear my head. Ryan's car was nowhere to be seen. When I came back at night, she was still home, but her bags were packed. She said she knew she had messed up and was ready to give me some alone time, if that was what I needed. She just wanted me to promise that I would give her a chance when I was ready to talk. I told her I was not going to be ready to talk. I asked her to imagine how she would feel if she walked in and found me with her sister. She actually had the nerve to say I was being disgusting. I reminded her that I had looked at Ryan like a brother, and what I had witnessed was just as wrong as what she imagined when she pictured me with her sister. She would not forgive me, and I could not forgive her either. She could not say anything to that. She just stood by the door with her bags, looking at me like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I did not. Eventually, she picked up her things and left, only saying, "I will give you some space." She has kept her word so far. I have not heard from her or Ryan. Maybe she told him to give me space too, hoping I will somehow change my mind. I have not done it so far, and I never will. I am too mad at them, and I am still embarrassed I did not notice anything sooner. What turns my stomach the most is the premeditation. It was not a moment of weakness. He would park his car far away, so he would not be seen. She would lie about the coffee mugs, about the food wrappers. They had spent months perfecting their lies while he treated us like family. And after all that, Ryan had the nerve to say, "It is not what it looks like." Anyway, let us move on to the update. Update. I received a lot of comments assuring me that I had no reason to be embarrassed because it was not my fault. Hearing that helped a lot. I kept feeling like I should have known sooner somehow. The stress of the situation did not have me thinking very clearly, and the comments helped me get my head straight again. Once I was able to get past that, I was able to put myself in the right mental space to focus on what I needed to do next. The hardest part was finding a lawyer. I had never needed one before, and I did not know where to start. I spent a whole night reading about divorce lawyers and trying to figure out what my options were. Once I found a lawyer, he guided me through everything I needed to know. I took all his advice, documenting all communication with her, separating our finances, and securing all my important documents. He assured me the process would be pretty straightforward, since we had no kids and had not been married that long. That was the first good news I had received since all this started. He emphasized that it was important for me to avoid getting into any more confrontations with my cousin. Getting into a physical fight, even under the circumstances, would complicate things if she decided to make an issue out of it. Then there was also the possibility that Ryan could press charges against me. He told me in his personal opinion that Ryan would probably just ignore it. It would be awkward for him to have to testify, given the circumstances surrounding the fight. I knew I needed to start telling people what had happened. It was only a matter of time before word started spreading about our divorce, and I was not going to let Rachel twist the story in her favor. I did not give people all the details. I just told them Rachel and I were getting a divorce because of infidelity. I did not mention the fact that I caught them, and I did not mention who I caught her with. My lawyer told me to keep things to the bare minimum details for now. It would not look good for me if it seemed like I was trying to smear her image. Rachel reached out when she found out I had been telling people the truth. She was not dramatic about it. She just said she wished I had given her a chance to talk before I started talking to people about it. One message said she had cut contact with Ryan and that it was a mistake she would regret for the rest of her life. I did not reply to any of them. Ryan also reached out. He sent a long message about how he never wanted things to happen like this. He said I would always be his brother and that we had to work things out like brothers do. He said he wanted to meet in person so he could clear things up. That message made me mad all over again. Brothers do not do what he did to me. What really bothered me was the entitled way he was acting about my forgiveness. He made it sound like I owed him a chance to explain himself. I told him to go to hell and blocked his number. The divorce went exactly as my lawyer said it would. We had no kids, so there was no custody to fight over. We had not been married long enough for alimony to be an issue. We split our joint savings in half and each took our own car. After the divorce was finalized, I was ready to settle into my new life, but I felt like I had some unfinished business. I had already told everyone that Rachel had cheated on me, but it still did not feel right to me. They did not know exactly what she had done, and nobody knew what Ryan had done either. I felt like I was letting them get away with it, so I fixed that. I reached out to everyone again and gave them the full story. This time I did not leave out a single detail. I explained how Rachel lied to me for so long and how I caught them in the act. I was surprised that so many people were on my side. Everyone knew how close I was with Ryan. People were usually surprised to learn he was my cousin and not my biological brother. They were just as disgusted as I was by what they had done. I debated telling Ryan's parents for a while. It was not for their sake. They were my aunt and uncle, but they treated me like a son growing up. They were good people, and I knew it would break their hearts. I still did it, though. They would probably end up hearing the truth from someone else, so I owed it to them to tell them myself. As I expected, they were heartbroken to hear it. Ryan and Rachel both tried to contact me after that. Ryan was disappointed, but did not try to blame me for it. He just apologized again and said he really wished I would talk to him. Rachel completely broke down. She sent a series of text messages going back and forth between begging me to answer her calls and swearing she never wanted to see me again. People had a really low opinion of her now. After finding out what she did, mutual friends stopped inviting her out. People stopped talking to her. She had had to move in with her parents, and they were both giving her the silent treatment. She told me her dad would not even look at her. It might sound petty, but I was happy to hear it. I was glad to see she had lost something too. I have tried to be strong, but the truth is that losing a trusted family member and your wife in one afternoon is hard. It is really hard. And it took me a while to recover from the damage they both did to me. Cutting them out of my life helped, but getting back at them helped even more. Confronting them both where it hurt and exposing who they really are felt like medicine for my soul. With the truth out, I feel like I finally started moving on with my life. I have not heard from either of them in a while, and I hope it stays that way. I try not to think about them these days. I think that is the real path to recovery for me. One day I will forget them both, but I will never forget the lesson they taught me. You can never allow yourself to blindly trust anyone, even your own family. Comment. Hey everyone, I wanted to share a quick thought with you after this one. I've been thinking a lot about how self-respect really anchors us through tough times. You deserve to set firm boundaries in all your relationships and stick to them. When something doesn't feel right, trusting your instincts can guide you toward better choices. I believe owning our part in the healing process is key to moving forward. It takes time, but choosing peace instead of holding on to anger brings real freedom. Kindness toward yourself during difficult moments makes all the difference. You might feel overwhelmed right now, yet remember that growth comes from those hard lessons. Let's make an effort to surround ourselves with people who truly value us. And if you're watching this, know that you're capable of building a life filled with genuine trust and respect. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.